This is Cosmic Mike again. Welcome to Vedic Monday, coming you direct and live from peachtree.com. Today we'll be continuing our Vedic journey, and we talked about the five elements of the cosmos. We talked about the doshas, vata, pitta, kapha, and we talked about the qualities, the gunas that each have. And today we'll be discussing about the taste and the six tastes of food. It is essential to know these because these are related to exactly the elements. They're made of these elements. They have similar qualities and how they basically increase or decrease the vata, the pitta, and the kapha. And this is where, because we're eating food and having food on a daily basis. So this way it tells us and gives us an idea which taste we should be having more of at that particular time. It is good to have all the taste in a meal, a little bit of all of it, again, a good balance. And as you'll see, where some of them will increase certain doshas, some of them will decrease certain doshas. So depending on your point in time in your life, what you're going through, a fad diet or something, where understanding the taste, you do not have to basically depend on these diets that are out there, because you know exactly logically which foods to pick up when, which foods to eat, where, which vegetables, which fruits. So, and this has nothing to do with the processed food in what you get in the supermarkets. Remember, these tastes are not related to that, of course, and because those are processed, those are man-made. This is more for the natural foods that are in the environment that the nature has given us. And of course, also the herbs that we use for certain remedies, because certain herbs are used at certain times. And understanding their taste and their qualities that we discussed last week and the elements that they're made of determines which herb to take when. That's why not all herbs or not all supplements could be exactly good for everyone at all times. So let's take a quick look at these tastes, and they're generally six tastes: sweet, sour, salty, pungent, astringent, and bitter. Now, our tongue can receive or sense only these four tastes. Sweet and salty are generally at the tip of the tongue. The sour is on the side of the tongue, and the bitter is at the back of the tongue. So once that bitter food gets to the back of the tongue, that's when you start sensing that taste. And a lot of these have their different properties, as you will see, because they are made from those mahabhutas, the five elements that we spoke initially: air, space, air, water, fire, water, and earth. And let's look at the sweet. Sweet increases kapha. Kapha is basically weight. That's where one of those doshas where weight is gaining. It reduces vata and pitta, builds and strengthens all the tissues, your blood, your muscles, your bone, and it nourishes the body. In the mind, it stimulates, it improves the strength of the heart, and generally the foods that are associated with sweet taste, of course, are the carbohydrates and your complex carbs, the sweet fruits, some grains, and definitely your root or earth vegetables, which are the potatoes, the beets, the carrots. And that's why you could see they're denser, they're heavier, because they have the earth element. So more grounding as such, honey, milk. So definitely having the sweet taste will bring you those positiveness, but an excessive, as we look later, we'll see in a few minutes, excessive sweet foods can also cause weight gain, can cause a lot of depression or emotional heaviness in the system. So this way you know when to avoid what. Now next comes sour, and sour, of course, in Sanskrit is amla. Amla, basically, it increases the kapha also, but it reduces pitta and vata. Pitta is the fire within, the anger, if there is emotionally. So having a sour taste food can definitely increase that even further. Now vata, of course, when you're moving, when you have anxiety, you have too much stress going on, that's too much vata. So you can decrease vata by having some sour foods. And let's look at some of the sour foods. Of course, there are the fermented foods, the pickles, the sour fruits, vinegar, lime, and of course, yogurt. So again, time and place when to have which food. Let's look at salty. Salty is lavana. Lavana is basically, it increases kapha again, and it reduces vata, so similar to your sour foods. And this makes the food more tasty, of course, and it helps with the water balance. This is where the kidneys come in, where too much salt or less salt, it can increase water weight, or it can decrease water weight, or it can increase your blood pressure. So, definitely very important, because salt also removes blockage, because salt is water retention. Salt is bringing in the right amount of water in your system, of course, is directly related to the kidneys, where most of the water is filtered through. And the salt in our diet is not the iodine, or not the sodium that I'm talking about, what you see in the packaged foods. This is more the direct salt, the rock salt, the sea salt, and the trace mineral salts that you're getting from the sea, basically. So those are also very important in the diet. And as you'll see, excessiveness can cause a lot of issues there. Next, of course, is pungent. Pungent is the spicy. Everybody loves, especially Indians. We have this pungent diet, mostly all the spicy foods. And the foods that are involved in there: ginger, black pepper, horseradish, garlic, cloves. Pipali is one of the other ones, jalapenos. So those are very stimulating. They bring heat. They excite you mentally, emotionally. But they can also bring anger, jealousy. There's too much spice in your diet as such. They can also bring dryness, because dryness is one of the qualities of pitta itself, because it's increasing pitta. Remember, pitta was the fire, the agni that's within our gut, our stomachs, but the agni, or the fire that's within our mind or emotional, where we tend to do things where we pay more attention, but too much of that can cause opposite effects of anger, some hatred. So, pungent foods relieve pain, muscle tension. It reduces the congestion. I came up with a special formula for sinus congestion, which I'll share with you in one of these episodes, where I basically added horseradish, ginger, jalapeno, and wasabi. When you have wasabi, and it clears your sinuses up. So that's a pungent. So what it's doing is stimulating the metabolism and really clearing those channels. So pungent foods are great for clearing channels. Now let's look at astringent. Now astringent is a very kashaya, which is what it's called. It's a very unique taste, which I don't think the Western world really has or understands where that is. And mostly, of course, it's coming from the peel of the fruits. Your oranges, your apples, pomegranate, and of course turmeric is also very astringent. Some green vegetables, the blueberries, the cranberries, and this reduces kapha. So this is a good friend for losing weight, because everything that's reducing kapha, which you'll see pungent, astringent, and then the next one's bitter. So all these three are reducing kapha, reducing stagnation, reducing cohesion when there's too much gum or glue or congestion. And these three are what's reducing the kapha, but they also increase vata. So you have to be careful where they're increasing too much mobility in your digestive system, like a laxative, because they can work as a laxative. So if there is constipation, if there's blockage in the intestines, then of course the pungent, the astringent, and the bitter fruits and vegetables are more likely to help. And too much can cause the opposite effect. The last one, of course, is bitter. And bitter is basically the bitter fruits or the bitter vegetables, the grapefruit, balancing blood sugar. It increases the fire. It purifies. As a matter of fact, those are detoxifying vegetables and fruits. Bitter melon, as such. So these are antibiotics. They can be antiseptics, antibacterial. So adding those foods or fruits in your diet can help fight a lot of infections as such. Leafy green vegetables, of course, a lot of them, spinach, kale is very bitter, as you see. And the herbs, I would say neem, myrrh, and bitter melon. Those are your more bitter quality or bitter taste herbs that are required when you're looking at detoxifying, when you're looking at doing a cleanse or something like that. And let's look at the emotional effect on these tastes. The sweet can bring more compassion, satisfaction, but it can also bring attachment and possessiveness if taken too much. Sour, as we said, amla, it brings stimulation, but it can also bring jealousy. Salty can also bring, confidence, and desire to do things, but it can also bring greed and over-ambition kind of thing. Pungent, which is the spicy, brings boldness, confidence, or I would say defiance, but it can also bring anger, violence, hatred. Astringent, insecurity, fever, when there's a fear, I guess, when there's too much. The bitter brings, dissatisfaction, isolation, and in the opposite, where it's too much bitter in the diet, sorrow, grief. So a combination of these, or a little amount of these in our daily diets, is very important. And that's why you'll see the South Indian diet, their recipes involve a lot of these taste together in a thali, which they call a full thali, where they have a little bit of each. And you'd be surprised they start with the sweet, because the sweet, once you basically start with the sweet taste, you're covering the cravings of sweetness where you may not require or crave that sweetness after your diet and go into desserts, hence preventing weight gain. So there's a time, there's a protocol, there's a place for having these tastes. And once you understand these, and I will do a blog, I'm writing a whole blog on this, so I'll go in more detail. Then you look at food basically as nourishing you, and you know which taste to do when. And this is where it's very important. Then we don't have to worry about these fad diets that are out there, the keto diet, this diet. Yes, they may work, but that they're only working for just a minimal amount of time. Once you get off them, you're going to be back to square one. And we'll talk more about these diets too, because each one has a pro and a con. But in the Western, conventional medicine or the Western nutrition, there is no concept of taste. And taste was, and this was written in the Vedics, 10,000 years ago. They understood exactly which fruit, which vegetable, which herb to take when and how. I hope this was inspiring, and I hope this gave you some details. I know it was a lot to cover, but next Wednesday we'll be covering raw foods or raw juicing and blending, the difference between juicing and blending. And I have a lot of questions regarding that. So please do give me your comments, and I hope you enjoyed the episode of Vedic Monday. We'll see you on Vitamin Wednesday on Wednesday. Thank you for joining in. Bye.